Hello everyone, this is Cobalt. This is the next video in my character analysis series for Brawlhalla. Stick around till the end to hear about entering the giveaway to win community colors, emotes, weapon skins, sidekicks, avatars, or even the battle pass, and voting for the next legends. And if you want to skip all this and get straight into the information, there's a timestamp in the description, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with the release of your favorite legend. In these analyses, I wanted to focus solely on the character's signatures. Light attack combos are covered much more in depth than I ever could elsewhere and function pseudo-comparably for all characters of that weapon class. So I'm not going to be discussing the general neutral of the character with their weapons unless it pertains in some way to their signatures. Firstly, I want to give clear descriptions of the terminology I'll be using. Startup frames are the amount of frames that happen after a move has begun until the first hitbox of the move becomes active. Active frames are the duration of frames that the move contains hitboxes that can collide with your opponent. FAF, or First Actionable Frame, is the first frame available where your character is able to move again after the move has been started. For all of this data, I use the character's jump to display the first actionable frame. Lastly, On Miss refers to the move not connecting with an opponent, and On Hit refers to the move making contact with an opponent. I'm going to be doing my analysis today on the next voted in legend, Ragnir. Ragnir is a 90-foot-long dragon who hunted in the Fangwild Forest. After Ember's disappearance from the Fangwild, the dragons ravaged the land. The Fangwild began to fall apart without Ember, so Ragnir traveled to Brawlhalla in an attempt to bring her back to return stability to the forest. Additional artwork for today's video is provided by my man Deb and BlueFlames160. Thank you guys so much for contributing and sending your artwork into me. It looks fantastic, and their links to their Twitter pages will be in the description below. So go give them a follow. Ragnir's weapons are Katars and Axe. Ragnir has seen quite a few competitive results through the years. Both of his weapons being competitively relevant at one point or another made him a consistent metagame threat. He has a well-rounded stat distribution with 5 attack, 6 dexterity, 6 defense, and 5 speed. This makes his kit pretty malleable and offers him a good base to work with. So, do his signatures also offer him comparable benefits, or are they the limiting factor that's preventing him from going even higher? Well, let's find out. Let's start with his Katars. Katar's Sidesig has 22 frames of startup, active frames from 23 to 37 with an FAF of 64. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Ragnir charges forward with his Katars reached out in front of him, bathed in fire, and closes with a small finishing slice. The Sig has below average startup thanks to its charging movement. It's got slightly above average FAF and offers Ragnir some beneficial coverage in front of him at a distance. It's a decent burst option for him and is beneficial at certain circumstances. It's not his best Sig, but I think it has its benefits on his toolkit. Katar's neutral Sig has 17 frames of startup, active frames from 18 to 30 with an FAF of 51. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. Should the move connect, it converts into a second hit with active frames from 44 to 48 with an FAF of 68. Ragnir jumps upward with a huff of fire from his jaws. If the initial hit connects, Ragnir continues his upward movement with a downward swing from his Katars. The Sig has slightly below average startup and pretty decent FAF on miss. It offers him coverage above him, catching jumping opponents and those attempting to recover high. It's a solid Sig with similar threat coverage to downlight on Katars. It's a pretty good Sig in my opinion and has a really good downward launch angle. Katar's down Sig has 18 frames of startup, active frames from 19 to 28 with an FAF of 49. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Ragnir jumps upward and fires a ball of fire downward and forward towards its opponent from his mouth, sending them downward should it connect. It's got average startup and pretty solid FAF, making it a pretty decent edge guarding tool that has decent end lag. It has good utility at ledge and can punish approaching opponents thanks to its disjointed hitboxes in front of him. Next up is his Axe. Axe Sidesig has 23 frames of startup, active frames from 24 to 33 with an FAF of 54. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Ragnir lights his axe on fire and then slams it down forward in front of him. This Sig has a decent amount of startup and okay FAF. It has decent coverage in front of him thanks to the distance traveled, but it's still just a mediocre Sig in terms of its frame data in my opinion. One interesting thing about this signature is that if performed via gravity canceling, it has slightly different hitboxes that extend further downward since the axe doesn't connect with the ground. Axe neutral Sig has 15 frames of startup, active frames from 16 to 33 with an FAF of 53. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. Should the move connect, it converts into a second hit with active frames from 46 to 50 with a new FAF of 72. Ragnir breathes a plume of fire above him, and if these flames connect with the opponent, Ragnir swings his axe upward for a finishing hit. This Sig has pretty decent startup and FAF. It covers jumping opponents and those recovering high quite well. It definitely has some uses on his kit, especially with the large sweeping hitboxes it provides him. Axe down Sig has 17 frames of startup, active frames from 18 to 37 with an FAF of 61. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. Should the move connect, it converts into a second hit with active frames from 47 to 51 with a new FAF of 73. It can also be held for quite a while to extend the active frames to around 80 frames. Ragnir breathes a large burst of fire in front of him, and if it connects with the opponent, he swings his axe forward for a finishing hit. The lengthy hitboxes on it can effectively bait opponents and can potentially be a decent tool at ledge trapping or at edge guarding. So, overall, his SIGs are decent in terms of their frame data. They seem to be about average overall, but have some decent utility. His side signatures seem to function well as burst options at a distance, his neutral signatures catch opponents higher up, and his down SIGs have a mixed bag of utility between mix-ups or mind games and edge guarding. His signatures definitely have their place on his kit, and in spite of his frame data not being the absolute best by any metric, they aren't bad, which kind of mirrors his stats. They offer him decent utility in several directions with enough distance coverage on his side SIGs to function as burst options and hitboxes on the neutral SIGs to catch opponents pretty well. The knockback angles on these are also pretty good too in my opinion, his neutral SIG on Katars definitely being the highlight here. He also has some sick skins, some of the coolest in the game in fact. I think that he's a very solid character, and I think that his results have reflected this, and I think that he'll continue to show some decent competitive placements for a while to come. Today's code to put down in the comments is Rayquaza, along with your Twitter handle or social media of your preference. And if you get that reference, I appreciate it. Also, feel free to check out my Twitch channel. I won't be streaming this week, but I will be next week, so feel free to stop by and say hello. I'll be doing 1v1 battles with viewers. The channel will be linked in the description down below. Apologies for the delay on the video this week. Had some personal matters to attend to this weekend, but should be back on track this week. Tune in Monday for coverage on the highest voted legend from this week. Comment to vote for next week's 5 legends. This is the final video of the week, so I'll distribute the prizes later this evening to the winners, and the poll will be closed later tonight, so be sure to get your votes in. I'll be continuing this once a day, Monday through Friday, over the next 10 weeks until all 50 legends are covered. 40 down and 10 to go. We're almost there. So thanks for joining me on this ride. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the release of your favorite legend, and I hope to see you back for the next one. Once again, I'm Cobalt, and thanks for watching.